Hey everybody, welcome to an 8 o'clock start time here on a Tuesday evening. We've got another collector interview for you from a member who's been on CAF for quite some time, and many of you have maybe seen him if you've been to Heroes. He sells comics there. He's got art. He's been a collector for a very long time. If you looked at the artwork in the little intro video there, you know that we've got a fair amount of classic artwork to look at, but a few, well, maybe one or two modern pieces here. But let me bring Mr. Ted in here and we'll get this thing started. Hey, Ted.
Hey, Bill.
How are you?
Great. It's fun to be here. I'm excited.
Good. You know, for as many times as I've run into you at shows, we've actually never talked too much beyond just, hey, how's it going? How's this, that, and the other. So this is good. Yeah, this is an opportunity for us to BS a little bit and appreciate the hobby in ways that we have not gotten to do at shows, because shows sometimes just don't allow you to have time like that, do they?
Yeah, you're too harried, and I just was always happy to see you. You come by the table and I'd say, hey, good to see you, and we'd chat for a few moments and then you were off.
Typically. Yeah, well, Heroes is a busy show. I mean, that's the show I always saw you at, and I don't think I got this today. Did I see you this year? I don't even remember. I don't think I made it over to your table this year, but
probably not.
That show's just so darn busy because there's so many artists there. It's a great comic show. You always bring a lot of comics to that, so I'm sure just from that side of the business, you're always wheeling and dealing the whole time.
Yeah, love that show. It's just comics and comic art. It's fabulous.
Yeah, no, Shelton does a great job with that one. How many years have you been going to that show?
Oh my goodness, I can't even remember, but it's several. It's many. I wish the funny thing is I started doing it many, many years ago, and then it was much, much smaller then. And I kind of hadn't figured out just what shows I really wanted to do yet. And so I stopped doing it for a little while, but then I came back on board more than a decade ago. And ever since I've been a regular.
Well, that's it's our favorite show here. I think everybody at CAF, whether you're on the team or you're a collector, I mean, everybody talks about that show. Baltimore and now OAX is like favorites. I mean, anything that stays true to the hobby, to the comics, I think is important. And I mean, you can't go wrong with either Baltimore or Heroes, that's for sure. But we're here to talk about you and Superworld comics, and so why don't we just kind of exactly still flexing after all these years?
I'm flexing.
So give me your origin story, right? I mean, what's the first comic book you picked up? What's the first piece of art you got? Why did you do either one of those things in the first place? And how have you stayed in it for so long?
Well, we've all got an origin story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, with me, I had older brothers, cousins around the neighborhood, and comic books. This is in the 60s. I grew up, I was a kid, and comics were just part of being around. They were floating around. Kids would leave them on their front porch, they'd kick around. My brothers would pick some up here and there. I honestly did not have a wooden nickel to my name. My parents were kind of cash poor. And it wasn't until 69, when I was about 10, that I started getting $1 allowance per week. And
were you doing something to earn that dollar, or did you just get it?
No, I just got it. Later on, I started earning more so I could feed my addiction. But they finally gave me, that. And so I ran down to Vic's. We just called the local corner store. Oh, nice. And I ran down there, bought all the Marvels on the rack. It was dated May of 69. My first comic book, actually, I have it right here. Here's the first comic I ever bought, right here. FF86. This is the one that caught my eye. And I bought this. I bought the Spidey, Marvel Tales, Daredevil, whatever they had. And it really, really was so exciting. I remember bringing them home, reading them, and not really knowing what was going on in any of the stories. Because they were kind of building on themselves.
And it like 80 plus issues in, so it's understandable.
But thinking, this is the coolest thing ever. I am loving this, and I'm in both feet. So I started buying regularly and collected avidly for about 5 years. And then when I got into high school, I kind of put them aside, but I still loved them. And I was one of the guys that not only did I save my books, my parents, even though they didn't understand my fascination with funny books, which they were to them, oh, Michael, you were ahead of me, man. They didn't understand the fascination, and it would frustrate them sometimes because I'd be up late reading my comics instead of doing homework. But when I moved out of the house, they saved them for me in a nice cabinet. So then I went off and did other things for years. I got like 8 years, maybe. I didn't even look at a comic book, which is crazy to think about now. But I was just trying to do other things, expand my horizons, discovered women. You know how that goes.
The early 80s. I mean, come on. You were the time of your life throughout the mid to late 70s into the early 80s.
Exactly. So then in the early 80s, I was in art school and I noticed a copy of Epic Illustrated. It was number 8 with a really cool Howard Chaykin painted cover. And I bought it and I was smitten again. It was, in my opinion, the early to mid 80s was a renaissance period where the independent publishers expanded and or they proliferated, and there was just so much more options, so many more options, so many different types of comics, and my best friend growing up, guy, I call him Maz. His name is Tommy Massarelli. Maz and I were the cohorts in comics, and he was the one who got fascinated with original art. I was just interested in putting my runs together. When we were in middle school, like 1971, 72, I remember being at a comic show in Boston, and I was there looking for ways to fill my Marvel runs. Mm-hmm. And he went over to a booth which had original Conan art by Barry Smith and Wrightson Swamp Thing stuff. Now, this is 72. And so it was relatively recent, but it was hot, you know. There was a lot of hype surrounding it. And he came over to me and said, "Ted, this guy has these original pages by Smith and Wrightson, and they're only like $15 a piece, you know." But at that time, $15 was like you telling me now, 250 grand, you know. Right. It's like, that's great. I got other things on my mind here. I'm busy with this. So I didn't really get into the art initially. But years later,
did your friend pick up a page in 1972? Did he get a Wrightson Swamp Thing, or did he not have $15 either?
Can you imagine? Oh, there's no way. You asked me about earning the money. What I started doing was begging my parents to give me tasks to do. Wash the car, I'll trim the hedges, I'll do whatever you need. So that I just pay me some money that I've earned, you know, so I could go. And initially it was to buy comics from local junk shops. I used to walk the city of Worcester looking for junk stores, well, antique stores, technically.
There's a lot of them in that area.
There were.
I went to school on the North Shore, so I know that. I know.
Oh, that's right. Well, most of them didn't have much of anything, but every now and then I'd stumble on something that had cool, and I could get them for like a nickel a piece then. Mm-hmm. You know, you just didn't know what they were going to have. And so I did that. So for this show that I'm talking about, where Maz discovered the art, I had scraped together $6, which was a Herculean effort on my part. And I wasn't going to blow it all on one thing. Anyway,
Nickel Comics sounded a lot better. You can get that's going to go a lot further for you.
Exactly. If I could get 15 or 20 comics to fill in my runs, I really wanted to read the stories and have them all in their original state. And I was truly obsessed. I'm sure a lot of you can relate.
Yeah, I think we all have the same bug that that you do at different times, and a lot of us started with, collecting comics and wanting to complete runs, and then we fall into art, and then everything goes south. I'm curious. You said you went to art school when
Yes.
you came back and found the Epic Illustrated with the Chaykin cover, and that's the same time like Moonshadow and other books are coming out. But
Yes.
What art school were you going to?
I was at Mass Art in
Okay,
Boston.
Mass Art. Okay.
Yep. And I was taking basic classes to start with. You had to take design studio and a sculpture class and this and that. And my intention was to major in illustration and painting, because I was kind of torn between trying to become a serious painter or an illustrator, like a book illustrator or something like that. But I couldn't make up my mind. I had one foot in both camps. I was fascinated with both. But when I saw that epic, I was like, oh, there's a way to do this. Like, if you can get good enough and make some connections, maybe. I didn't know how you did it in those days, because in those days you had to go to New York. It was the only way. You couldn't do it any other way. You had to travel to New York or live there in order to knock on doors and try to have a portfolio and that kind of thing. So I never did that because I knew I couldn't live in New York City. It was just too much from my tender sensibilities.
Well, that was during that time. Yeah, if you had tender sensibilities, you didn't want to go to school in New York or live.
It was just too tall, and I literally would get claustrophobic when I would go there. It's so sad, but that's the way it was. And so I never really pursued that dream, but I did when I got out of art school. I did start working as a freelance illustrator, and met my wife-to-be, Lisa, who's a brilliant business person. I'm the mad piler, that's what I call myself, and the guy who knows the comics and the artists and, have all that knowledge. But she's the one who really knows how to run a business much better than I do. So she noticed that I was in front of the TV at night, just going through comics. And she said, you know what? You love doing that so much. Why don't you make a little business out of it, make a little extra money? Because as a freelancer, any of you who have been freelancers understand that it's feast or famine. And you'll get like 3 jobs at once. They all want it in one day. Or you've got nothing and you're nervous because there's no income. So I was doing that. But I reconnected with Maz. And by then, Maz had started collecting original art. He was into comic book art and comic strip art. He used to get I don't know if it was maybe a quarterly catalog from Mitch Itkowitz at Graphic Collectibles.
Yep.
You're talking maybe 1986, 87. And I remember Maz bought 4 pages from Swamp Thing 5 from Mitch. I think they were like 150, 200 a piece at that point, which we didn't really have. We were still so poor that we didn't have the money to buy art on the side, because I was buying comics to resell.
Right.
And what was I thinking?
So Maz decided. I mean, what made him take the plunge? Did he have a better job? Did his wife have a better job? I mean, what was
not really? He was unmarried at the time, and so he was Mr. Bachelor. So he would just scrape every dime together.
Yeah, he could eat ramen for a week in order to pick up an extra Wrightson page.
Lisa wouldn't stand for that,
No, not at all. Of course not.
But I do have to say, she's been a saint. Particularly in the early days when we were on the razor's edge, just trying to build the business. I was, again, obsessed, and I would take every dime that I made and plow it back into the business. I didn't have a conception of a household. and
You're
that's
still that kid, trying to find ways to, make an extra dollar by washing the car and everything so you could buy comics. So no, I get
some
it.
things
Still,
never change,
there's
right?
a hustler gene in your blood and your
There it
DNA
is.
that is telling you to keep doing this. And hey, unfortunately, your wife was okay with that. That's
Well, she was usually okay, sometimes not so okay. She wanted me to get a regular job, that type. She wanted security. And I told her security is an illusion, my dear, and, she wanted me to get benefits, basically like health insurance and all that stuff, which I didn't give a crap about at that age. You're talking 29, 30, 31. I just didn't really care. And so I was fortunately stubborn, and I knew this is what I wanted to put my time into. So, but in the meantime, Baz got me interested in the art. And I'll give you an example. He had gotten a catalog from Graphic Collectibles, and about a week later, he probably bought a couple things out of it. A week later, he just gave it to me. So I'm looking through it, and what do I see but the splash page of art from Strange Tales 135, the Nick Fury story where he's an LMD, posing as an LMD. It was $125, which even then I'm thinking, that has to be bought. I didn't have the money, but I figured I'm going to find a way, just make it happen. So I call Mitch and I said, I want that page. And he said, sorry, someone bought it yesterday. I missed it by a day.
That's how they hook you,
I guess.
This was your first call to Mitch too?
Yes. Yeah.
He's taking notes. Yeah, I'm sure. But that's that. So what did you do? Did you have the catalog in front of you? Did he sell you on another page with you on the phone?
No, he really didn't upsell me, which is interesting. Because then, like the next quarter, same thing happens. Maz, CBG, yeah. The next quarter, another catalog comes, and Maz subscribed. It didn't occur to me to subscribe because I didn't have any money. So Maz gets it, and then a week later gives it to me. There's a freaking Ditko Doctor Strange page in there from 131 or 132 Strange Tales, like an amazing one. And it was $100. Again, it was such a fair deal. I'm like, this has got to be bought. So I call Mitch. And no internet then, and I call him and I said, I want that page. And he said, sorry, somebody bought it yesterday. It was a carbon copy.
Did he not try to sell you on getting his quarterly, delivered early?
You know what? If he had any sense, he would have, but he didn't. I don't remember him talking me into anything.
Right, because here now it's your second call, 3 months apart. You're trying to buy something, and both times you struck out. So I mean, at this point, if I'm Mitch, I'm figuring out how to get you. I'm sending you a catalog for free the next time it comes.
Yeah,
up. You're a buyer and you're hungry.
I'll tell you honestly, it was quite a different world then, because people were much more passive generally in our collecting, and we weren't as competitive. It wasn't as competitive. There weren't as many of us looking for stuff. It's grown and grown and grown, and we've gotten more and more people with a lot of money involved. But that's only happened in the last 20 years or so. And prior to that, it was much more laid back, and you'd be amazed what was available that nobody bought. Like from a CBG ad, I remember seeing a Showcase 22 and no one wanted it. Nowadays, someone would see it and they would just be crawling over each other to get it. It's funny.
Those were the days. But so we're still talking, it's 83, 84, somewhere around
there. No, it's
in
probably about 86, 87.
It's later now. Okay, so
yeah, and
that makes sense. Yeah, you were around 30.
I got into being a dealer kind of by accident, but I'm not going to get into that story because it's kind of a long story. But it was a fortuitous happening, and Um, Maz also got interested. He got in touch with, oh my God, I'm forgetting his name now because I'm at that age where you can't remember names. Who's the guy who did the beautiful EC slipcase editions?
Russ Cochran.
Russ. Yeah, Russ Cochran was selling the original art by story for gains.
Yeah, first auctioneer really of original comic art was Russ. Yeah, he has an interesting role in the history of art collecting for certain. So yeah, well, tell me how that worked out. I'm curious.
Well, interestingly, or regrettably, when Maz discovered that he was selling the art, we had already missed the science fiction and most of the horror, because that's what he started with. And they were selling, oh, look at that. Someone similar to my timetable there.
The Lone Ranger.
But they were selling covers and stories. So the stories were anywhere from 4 pages to 8 pages each. And they were priced at anywhere from $200 to about $1,200 for a story. And again, everything was a stretch for us, everything. And so Maz started buying stories, and he bought a couple Aces High covers. He bought, what is it called? He bought a great story by Wally Wood from Shock Suspense Stories. He bought a Johnny Craig story. He bought a Ghastly Graham Ingalls story. I'm trying to think of the name of it. But on the splash page, it has a drawing of the old witch with a tear in her eye, and it says, "Farewell, Ghastly," because it's one of the last issues. Just the coolest stuff. And I started getting a fever.
Because, I mean, you're going over and seeing what he's buying. You're getting the catalogs too, and you're still striking out. All right.
But again, I couldn't afford anything. I mean, he offered, one of the pages you'll see tonight is my Wrightson Swamp Thing page, and it's really one of the best pages you'll ever see. He had bought it for $200, offered it to me for $400 a few years later. I didn't have it. I didn't have anywhere near it. Also, Lisa was not keen on me buying art at that point. She didn't understand what I was doing, and I couldn't articulate it. It was all just kind of intuitive. And so I told him, look, hold on to that page. Don't sell it to anyone else. I'll find a way. I'll get the money. So it's getting tense because, like, time's passing. A couple of weeks pass. He goes, I need to get this sold. He said, I said, hold on, please, hold on. And I finally scraped every dime together and I bought it. And it was kind of a miracle because I still have it.
So that's the first. The first is the Wrightson, huh?
No, what was the first page I ever bought?
All right, well, tell me what the first one is. If you remember. We know your first comic.
Yes, there you go. See? It's the only one I saved from my original collection. It's beat to hell, but it's the one. But I'm trying to think, what was the first page I ever bought? I cannot think of it. I can't remember now. I do have a funny story for you, though.
Well, give it to me.
All right. So Maz and I, we discovered this auctioneer named Howard Lowry in California. Have you ever heard of Howard Lowry auctions?
I don't believe so. You know, I remember Bruce Lowry, of course, but I don't think Howard.
No, it was Howard. And the interesting thing is, the reason you haven't heard of him is because he's still active, but he does mostly animation art and other stuff. Oh, wow, that's so cool. But at the time, he was coming up with amazing comic books and art, just unbelievable pieces. And like I said, it was a much more open range. Nobody knew what anything was worth. It was the Wild West. So one time, he was offering a page from Journey into Mystery 85 by Kirby. It had Loki on it. It had Thor on it. Or, you know, I can't remember all the details, but it was a great page. So Maz said, you know what? normally I call the day of the auction. Again, no internet. So you had to call. And it was a Sunday. And he said, I'm going down to New Jersey with my family. So I won't be around. Will you bid on this page for me? He said, do not go over $250. That's my max. I said, no problem.
It's your money. I'm happy to
so
it, right?
Come Sunday, it's at like 195. I bid 210. Someone else bids 225. I bid 235, and it's going like that. And I'm getting a little auction fever, and I'm trying to decide. So then the other guy bids something like 245. So I'm thinking, oh God, what do I do? So I bid 260. So then the other guy makes another bid, and I bid like 285, I think. And I win it. And so on Monday, Maz comes home. He says, so how did the auction go? I said, I got good news and bad news for you, Maz. The good news is I won the page, but I spent 285. I'm really sorry. And he got really upset. He said, I told you 250. Needless to say, he wasn't angry at me long.
Yeah, exactly. What's $35?
Oh my
friends,
God. I mean,
when he's getting that page.
I'm sorry?
When he's getting that page, he can't be that upset. I mean, come on.
Well, things were so tight for us in those days. It was amazing. It was just so different.
But when he got the page, were you there when he opened it up and saw it for the first time?
Oh yeah, he invited me over. I had to go see it. And
of course, unboxings are a celebration in the hobby.
It was brilliant.
Friends. That's perfect.
Now, interestingly, growing up, I was the Kirby guy. I was like, Kirby's the king. And he was obsessed with Barry Smith. He thought Smith was the be-all. So a couple of years, 2 or 3 years after he had gotten the page, another collector whose name eludes me, unfortunately now, but he really wanted that page, and he offered Maz 4 pages from Conan 1 in trade. So
and he doesn't care that much about it. Well, he likes Kirby, but Kirby's not his favorite. So
well, that's the thing is by then he knows it's a great page. So he asked me, Ted, what should I do? What should I do? It's like roughly even, I think, And I said, yeah, it's about even, but you know what? You're the Smith aficionado. Go for the Smith. So he wound up trading it for the 4 pages, one of which I have that I'll show you tonight, which I consider the best page in the book. He also got another amazing page, which was, it features a brief origin of Conan and King Kull, the first Marvel King Kull image. It's a great page. Nice. Oh man. So
I didn't tell you, on the right hand side of your window, there's you set the private chat, but if you click on the comments button, you'll be able to see the comments that people are making during
well, it might be too distracting.
It might be. I'll distract you with them every now and again. An interesting one was Michael Wygant said that I was in the same line for Mitch's booth when your friend bought that Strange Tales page.
Get out of here.
Small world. There you go.
That's spectacular. That's unbelievable, man.
and there was a question earlier. I kind of forgot about it from Rich Danny's. He wanted to know who did all those little portraits in the frame behind you.
Oh, that's Drew Friedman.
Drew Friedman?
A true genius. Drew Friedman is still active. He lives in New York City. And his brother is a really well-known playwright and screenwriter. And he is this genius artist who does everything in stipple. And I don't think he leaves his house because he basically does this insane detail. And it's immense, brilliant caricature and savage satire. It's the only way I can characterize it. It's really great stuff. Mr. Stipple.
And Michael says Swamp Thing page. I'm sorry, I totally forgot. That was earlier in the conversation. I said Strange Tales page.
Oh, Swamp Thing, yeah.
Yeah.
I can picture that. I remember when he did that. Not Michael, but my buddy Maz. Yeah.
All right. So Mr. Stipple is back there on the.
Well, I
on the
highly
back wall.
recommend getting Drew Friedman's books,
Okay.
especially the
Not
ones
familiar
where
with
he lampoons old Hollywood. And there's some other ones, and they are just darkly hilarious. Are you familiar?
So Jack Davis with a dark twist to it, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Although it's more detailed than Davis, even.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Now,
So yeah, so let's continue on though. So you're still you're watching, Maz get all this great artwork, and you're spending his money from time to time, and so you don't have any auction stories where you were hanging out on the phone with Russ's team or whatever when they were doing it. Nothing.
I'll tell you honestly, things were a bit tense with Lisa and me, only because I was so obsessed. Like I said, I was just putting all the money back into the business, and we were living on her freelance income. She was a professional photographer, and she was, working hard, and she's basically supporting the house. And I have no concept of business. I just was throwing it all back in.
Well, you got some nice calendars printed out on the wall behind you. So I think you got your act together now. Unless you're going to tell me that Lisa's been printing them out for you.
That's what she does. She'll come over to me once a month and say, "I got something for you, for your appointments," which I usually keep in my head. She realizes.
What I'm waiting for is, there's got to be this like turning point moment where something really
here's a
important
sort of
happens.
turning point moment. Basically, what I had to start doing, I'm not proud of it, but what I had to start doing was squirreling away cash. What would happen is at shows, you get some cash at shows, and I'd squirrel some away so I could buy something, some piece of art. And years later, she even said to me one time when she was mad at me about something, she said, "I know you're stashing art." I mean, you're stashing cash
For art.
And I'm like, me? How could you say such a thing? But it really turned out to be a great thing, because with Howard Lowry again, on his next auction, he had a lot that was 2 Kirby Sinnott FF pages from number 63. Smashing action pages. And so we figured, you know what, let's team up on this. See if we can win this lot, and we'll each take a page. So we did win it. I think we paid $2,100 for the lot. So it was about $1,000 a page. And so we each, it was tough to divvy up because both pages were just great. So it was hard to decide, but we did it.
Flip for it to figure out in the end who was going to get what.
I'm like, well, that one has the thing on it, but this one has Kirby Crackle. I'm like,
Right. Well, that's interesting that, that at the auction house, that they would actually pair two pieces in one lot. That doesn't, it must be early on where they just didn't think about separating them, how that might have been better.
I'm telling you, that stuff was not considered that big a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Covers and splash pages were a big deal. I could never afford them. They always stayed ahead of me, no matter how affluent I started getting. They were still more than I could afford, so yeah. But, regular pages, even then, I remember buying a Kirby Thor page at a show in East Hartford. I used to go to this show quarterly, East Hartford, Connecticut, at an Elks Hall. And it was this rinky-dink show, but for some reason, guys would come up from New York. It just was in the right place, and there was always amazing stuff there. And one time I'm set up there, and the guy next to me has some art, and he had a page from Thor 126 with the Thor and Hercules fight.
Exactly. That's one of the best battles between them ever.
Right. And so I buy it for $350, and he had told me that, I sold all the good pages last week in New York at a big show. This is all I got left. I'll take it, Another guy, I cheaped out a couple times, foolishly. Another guy at that show. He was a paper dealer, and he would show up with like 1930 centaurs and like all this rare stuff. One day he had a Wrightson Swamp Thing page from number 7. It didn't have Swampy on it, but it was all Batman, and he had $400 on it. And I remember thinking, all right, that's all the money I have. If I buy this and come home, Lisa's going to hit me with a brick bat, you know? So I cheaped out. I didn't buy it. He also had a piece by Robert Crumb, R. Crumb. It must have had 40 panels on it. It was the most detailed thing I have ever seen in my life. No idea what it's from. That was also $400. It would probably be 150 now, 150 grand. I mean, who knows? But in those days, again, stuff was just there. It was around.
See, you know what I'm seeing here is that you can't remember names, but you can remember the artwork.
Oh, I sure can.
Yeah, maybe not the paper dealer's name, but you remember his table, his setup, and the pieces that caught your eye. You know.
Yeah. Hell yeah. But I was still mainly doing comics. You know, I was trying to find stuff to resell or whatever, you know, or for my personal collection, which at the time I was building quite a personal collection of comics, which it's like you mentioned earlier, where you kind of go through the steps. You start trying to put your runs together, whatever your favorites are. And then you discover Golden Age in Atomic Age, and you get more sophisticated. You're into the older stuff. You're getting more educated. And then art is the next step. And that's when you're really doomed. That's when you're going to be broke for your whole life. You'll never get your eyes above water.
Well, it all depends on what you're looking for. You know, I mean, here at CAF, we're trying to encourage those new collectors to come in. There is still affordable art out there, but
there's a ton.
If you're going for the great stuff, the stuff that for those of us you know, who were reading comics in the 70s and 80s, and for you even into the 60s, that artwork is you know, from stuff like Swamp Thing or any early Kirby Marvel work is just it's pricey. You know, it's really hard to come by.
It's considered foundational, you know, and due to the fact that most art got disposed of in the Golden Age and the early Silver Age, you know, there's no way to know exactly what does exist still. Oh, the money pit of Golden Age comics. Yeah,
you know, well, that's true. But you know, that's where those Russ Cochran catalogs come in really handy, because you know he had photographs of a lot of the artwork in those, and he put out. I remember when I did some did some trade stuff with him long ago, and he sent me like the first 60 catalogs, still like stapled shut. They had never been opened. Like you know, he had a warehouse of old catalogs.
That's
and
cool.
Just going through those was like a treasure trove of just like, wow, this stuff. You know, a lot of this stuff I hadn't seen before. You know, and Heritage really didn't have the rich archives that it had at the time. Those catalogs were, you know, indispensable, I think, and they still are. And it sucks. I don't think I've looked at them in about 10 years, but like you say, you know, having those sorts of things out there really helped to show us, you know, what was available, who had them at the time. Who knows where they went from there? But
that's the thing.
But yeah, that's so true.
But also, like, to the best of my knowledge, the earliest known Fantastic Four art is number 3. 1 and 2 either are gone or somebody's sitting on them and doesn't want anyone to know. But they could be gone. You know, in those days, they were considered clutter. The art, okay, we just need a nice photostat for reprint purposes, and this stuff's just taking up space.
You can roll the photostats up, right? You have to keep stacking the pages, and that's what they wanted, right? If they could put everything in a tube off in the corner, it was a lot easier to store.
They just didn't have the space. They didn't think of it as anything with any value. Isn't that just shocking? It's amazing.
It is, but you know, you go back. I don't know. I mean, what kind of things today do we think don't have any value that maybe 40 years from now or 50 years from now we're going to be kicking ourselves? That, I mean, I don't know what it would be, right? But it's bound to be something. I mean, there's things in our lives today that are dispensable, right? Well, you look at that. Look, the video games in a box are worth so much money these days. Who would have ever guessed? You know, and that's kind of in the, you know, early 80s into the early 90s, and so yeah, you just never know what that'll be.
It's
Maybe
true.
my iPhone 10 is going to be worth something one day.
But the thing is, it's artwork. It's
Right.
art. It's not an iPhone. It's brilliant art. You know, when I was a kid in like 5th grade, the kid sitting next to me who I was friendly with would do a drawing that I thought was creative. I'd save it. I'd keep it. I guess I was an archivist at heart. But so it always struck me as odd that people who had their hands on this amazing stuff, professional, thought it was worthless.
Right.
It's just funny.
Well, I mean, their job
Can't
was to
relate,
get a
man.
comic book out, right? I mean, that's really, the focus is on the floppy. It's not on the effort to get to the floppy. And so I think that those who were in the offices of the publishers just were so focused on that the art just gets in the way, because their goal is to get the floppies out on the newsstand is every week. And you know what I mean? It's the
Oh, I
artist. I
agree.
think when you read stories about some of the artists from that time, a lot of those artists wish they would have been able to get their work back,
Yeah.
but they also just wanted to be employed. Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they were just too focused on getting the art done, moving on to the next book, and it was
Well, the
almost
pace that
impossible
they
for
were
them to do that.
keeping was astonishing. I mean, when you think about the amount of work Jack did and how creative it was and
Mhm.
like groundbreaking, how the hell did he do it? It doesn't even seem possible. You know,
When he's doing
penciling
almost all the
5 pages.
writing.
What?
Well, I know, I mean, trust me, I think we will always wonder how Jack was able to get
The work
so much
ethic.
work done at such a high creative level for so many years,
So many
still
years.
be underappreciated after all that time.
Oh, it's astonishing. As
Yeah.
someone who has drawn comic pages, and Andy Fish will back me up on this. It's a lot of work, man, to do a decent job on it. It's just amazing. You know, the way
So
I always look at things is I'm just so glad that I have been able to get what I've been able to get. You know, particularly with such a shoestring budget over the years. Uh, a lot of stuff got away. I either didn't get it or I had it and it slipped through my fingers, you know, out of necessity. But I try to look at the bright side that I have some great stuff and I feel like I've had a great opportunity to get it, you know.
all right, well, we're gonna look at that art, but I'm waiting for that turning point where you turn where you manage to get
Oh,
the business to where, and
here's
the
the
art.
turning point.
Right,
The
where the
turning
art collecting isn't as much of a problem anymore with your wife, because there has to be that moment.
It was about maybe about 20 years ago, 18 to 20 years ago, where she did sort of a 180 and she just came to the realization that the art, I started telling her, you know what, I have a theory that the higher end comic art is going to gradually merge with the fine art market. It's going to be pop art. And it's oh, thanks, Mike. And it has, I mean, I realized years ago that this stuff was going to become much more valuable and sought after because it's genuine art form. It's an original American art form. You always hear about jazz and baseball, right? Comic
Or
books, you know? But so
what was always surprising to me, at that point in time, so the early 2000s, and you're seeing, a comic book sell for, $1 million or $2 million, a graded book, right? And the pages from, say, those Ditko Spidey, books that were selling for a lot of money were weren't fetching, $100,000, but a
no,
comic book
like
where
15
that's mass
grand.
produced, has others at similar grades, is able to reach these high prices. And so I think a lot of people were looking at that and saying, at some point, the art has to catch up. Somebody's going to figure out that the art as a one of a kind item is far more valuable than the comics. The comics are so valuable anyway, but still, the art has to catch up someday. And we've seen that really the last 6 years, right? I mean, I think that's um, I think you're seeing prices and, and recognition. There's more gallery shows, there's more books written, you name it. I think they're finally realizing, the there's a very important historical significance to the creators who put the effort into write and draw these comics.
Well, the turning point was that I started telling her that, and I think it sunk in, and she did a 180, a total 180. She said, "Don't sell any of the art you have." She said, "Sell books, don't sell art." I'm like, who is this person?
Well, she was an artist. Both of you were creative, so it probably made sense after all these years of you collecting it. I mean, that's kind of the era where we saw Heritage really get started and established. They would do auctions at conventions, and then they really started their online presence in the early 2000s. Comic Link, Metropolis, and Comic Connect, and a few others that started kind of, helping just kind of raise awareness of it. Sotheby's has their big auction. That was in the late. That was the late 90s.
The early to mid 90s.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And so yeah, I mean, it was finally starting to happen, and there just weren't enough people who were raising their voices enough to make sure everybody was hearing it, right? The Manarinos were out there with Sotheby's and All Star Auctions and a few others, and then there was always Mitch, and back when Mitch had long hair, it was promoting the hobby and getting the word out, but again, it's hard when you don't have the internet and you're just kind of a lone voice out there, a little bit like the lone arranger. I believe that it's just hard. But you're right. At that point, that's when I think a lot of us were questioning, why and when are we going to realize that this stuff is much more significant than it's giving, than the prices were showing and the significance of it was showing.
Well, you'll laugh, but I kept thinking, like in the late 90s, I was thinking, it's too late to buy art now, it's getting too high. And then 10 years later, I'm thinking, it's too late. It's getting too high. Who knew? But so what I did was I sold off most of my comic collection, which included some pretty amazing books, in order to feed the art bug. I caught the art bug. I had to get art. So fortunately, while I missed some of the books terribly, I was getting Kirby and Ditko and Wally Wood and all these great pages. My initial goal was to try to get at least one good representative page by each artist I really liked a lot. I never did quite accomplish that. And what I ended up doing was getting what came available that I thought I could afford, not that that's a bad strategy, but I never did get a Steranko, because most of his stuff he kept. He had it. Couldn't get it. Who else did I never get? I never got a satisfactory Williamson. I really wanted a Williamson EC page. I've had a couple, but they were never quite what I wanted. The one time I did get a Williamson page that I wanted. Regrettably, it was a collection that I bought in conjunction with my buddy Gary Dolgoff. Mm-hmm. Gary and I co-owned it. And wouldn't you know, when we get the collection back to his warehouse, and he said to me, "Ted, there's just one piece I really want out of this collection." And I go, "Don't say it." It was a page. It was a Williamson science fiction page from Buster Crab 5, which is a rare book in itself. And this page was so nice. This was many years ago. And I said, "Damn, Gary, I do too." So we made an arrangement. We made an agreement that we were going to put it up for sale. In this collection, there was some Frazettas. It was stuff from like Heroic, and there was a Ace McCoy, stuff like that. It wasn't the real frontline stuff, but it was great. But there was this one page that just hit us right. So we made an arrangement. We're going to put it up for sale along with everything else. We're going to price it what we think is aggressively. If it doesn't sell in the first 2 weeks, we're going to flip a coin. The guy can buy the other one out. So needless to say, it didn't become an issue because it sold in about 16 seconds.
So you didn't price it aggressively enough, is what you're.
And we just weren't experienced enough yet.
Well, good art will always command high prices, right? I mean,
Rare stuff like
that's the talk of the, the last few years. People, the naysayers saying, that, oh, the art market's going to go down, as we've seen comics and other things go down maybe the last couple of years, but the thing is, great pieces will always be highly sought after, by the right artists from the right titles, all that sort of thing. And it just, no, you can never be aggressive enough when you have a prime example of an artist's work. It does, and in that case, like you said, it was from an insignificant title. That almost doesn't matter. Somebody else, just like you and Gary, were looking for that prime Williams, example, and yeah, they were willing to
there it
pay
was.
anything.
Yeah, it slipped through my fingers.
Yes, exactly. And so you
What are you
haven't
gonna
seen
do?
another one quite like that since then, right?
No. Being a dealer can be tough sometimes, in that way. But I have managed, like I said, I've managed to hold on to enough things, a few things that are nice. So
So you did, you rather than always like reinvesting, the comics, became at least, something that you could support yourself with, and then all the art but it also allowed you, after you sold off your personal collection, to pick up more choice pieces that um, were eluding you when you couldn't scrape together $400 or $200.
exactly. And even then, I still couldn't afford covers and splashes.
Right.
See, here's the thing and like you mentioned before, there is so much really nice art out there by very talented artists that is very affordable. But the stuff that I've always been after from the era and the foundational era stuff and the top name artists, that's just what I grew up with. So I've always wanted that. And it's just always stayed a little beyond my means. Now, to give you an example, in the 90s, I was still buying some new comics. And I remember seeing at the local comic store Wildcats from Image. I forget what number it was, but it had a cover that was so striking. And it was this new guy I'd never heard of named Travis Charest. And I'm looking at this cover, and it's amazing. And then I open it up, and the art inside is just as amazing. And I'm thinking, wow, this guy's great. So I bought the book, and then I was thinking, I should look for pages from this guy and just invest in a few. But again, I let it slide, and then he got expensive, because he's great. He's amazing. But there's plenty of others like that, even now. And there's another guy, Matteo Scalera, probably familiar with him.
Yeah, he's coming to OAX in February. Love his work. Yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I first noticed him on Black Science #1. And I loved the book. I thought, this is madly creative and so skillful for a young artist. And he's only gotten better since then. I did buy a page from him at Heroes a few years back. Yeah, so I actually have a page from him, which is great.
Yes.
So I would never discourage anybody from looking for art to buy, because there is some really great stuff out there. A lot of the old timers that I see at shows, they say, the comics now, they suck, the old days. And I tell them, dude, there's way more great artists now than there were in those days. You're just remembering the 6 guys who were amazing then. You're forgetting about all the other guys who were kind of hacky.
Yeah, exactly. The house style artists, of which there were many, but
many.
Yeah.
And now you've got professional illustrators. It's not considered the low end of the design world like it was then. And now everybody wants to be involved in it. So it's flip-flopped. And you're getting a lot of the top people around the world involved in it.
Right. Well, I mean, times changed. I mean, we've talked about that before, and this, that a lot of the artists in the 60s or 70s, the comics they wanted to have be a kind of a taking off point to get a better job from being a comic book illustrator, right? They wanted to get into comic strips and to add agencies or those sorts of things. And then the artists from the very late 80s into the 90s and into the 2000s grew up wanting to be comic book illustrators, so they came into it with a totally different mindset. It wasn't going to be a stepping stone to a better career. That was the career they wanted, and I think that's why you see a lot of a lot of artists today that are just like Travis or Jim Lee, McFarlane into Scalera. That just put a totally different level of effort and care into their work, because this is what they wanted to do from the time they were kids. And and again, it's just a different era. It
Yes.
doesn't take anything away from Neal Adams and John Buscema and Sinnott and Jim Aparo, you name it. But that it was just a different mindset from that era to the next.
It's also worldwide now. I mean, Matteo is Italian, and Isad Ribic is, what is he?
Croatian.
That's it. Yeah. And so on and so forth. I used to think, growing up, I'd think, oh, our U.S. artists are the balls, man. When I was a kid, I'd think, these French guys and Italian guys.
What is this Bande Dessiné? I don't know what that is. So
it was just a sort of chauvinism that I had when I was 12 years old. Then I was disabused of that notion when I discovered Mobius and Droulet and some of the others. Yeah. I can never
look at some artwork, because you got some pieces. You've been teasing us. Some people have gone into your CAF gallery and seen you only have 10 pieces in there of your personal collection.
I know.
19 things today. So there's pieces here that we're going to look at tonight that are not in your CAF, that nobody knows you own. And so this should be fun, right? I mean, I actually didn't. You sent me all that stuff less than an hour before the show, so I only just threw all the images into a folder, and I haven't gotten to look at them yet either. So the audience and I will all be looking at it for the first time together here. So they're in alphabetical order, though. So hopefully that doesn't change anything with the story here. But yeah,
it won't matter.
All right. So what are we starting out with here?
Let
me. Okay, wait. I wasn't. Nope. I don't want to start all the way out. I want to start all the way over here. It's alphabetical. Son of a gun. All right. I was trying to find that swamp thing you were talking about. So we're starting off with Neal Adams, right? So we have an Avengers page here from issue 95.
93.
Or 93. I'm sorry.
Yes. The Giant. Now, 93 has, ever since it came out, has been one of my top favorite issues of any comic I've ever seen. The story is great. The art was a revelation. And, Adams and Palmer together, wow. Palmer added a lot, like the duotone. And, I'd love to have a page from the Fantastic Voyage aspect, but I'm not complaining about this one. And it's signed by Rascally Roy, which is nice. And that's the Skrulls, by the way. I mean, when you look at it, it's the Fantastic Four, but it's actually Skrulls who are taking on some of the Avengers.
Wow. No, that's now, is this a page you've had in your collection for a while?
Not that long, maybe about 5 years.
Okay.
Which for me is pretty recent. I actually traded a Cap 46 for it, the Holocaust cover. And at the time I was a little iffy, but now I'm like, oh my God, I'm glad I did it. To me, the art is just so much more unique.
Oh, heck yeah. I mean, Adams Palmer during this era is fantastic.
When Neal hit the scene, his work, like someone mentioned that his faces were so expressive. His faces, in my opinion, made everybody else's faces, every other artist's face, look like a kid was doing it. Because it was just so, the verisimilitude was just such a step higher, just incredible.
Well, this is this one hell of a page.
Yeah, I was so thrilled.
I've always liked Palmer's inks too. I mean, but on Neal, it's something special at this point in time. Wow.
I remember the first time I met Neal was at a show in Baltimore years ago, and set up. The first day was over with, so my friends and I are leaving the hall, and I see Neal over at his booth, and he's breaking down. And so I just say really loudly, and Neal Adams, he could barely draw a straight line or something stupid like that. No. And he looks up at me.
Fighting words.
Yeah. And he looks up at me. So I go over to him, hand outstretched, and I said, big fan, big fan. I said, I always considered you the best pure drawer in comics. And he goes, "Tell me something I don't know."
That's Neal.
Honesty. It was pretty funny.
Oh yeah. No, yeah. He knew his importance, to
Yeah,
his
well, he
peers
did.
and
And,
to the
and,
business.
he could back it up. So, it's
Yeah.
not bragging if you back it up, right?
No, not at all. No, this
Look at
is
that
a
panel. It's
this is a
incredible.
beautiful page.
Yeah.
Really, really nice. Okay, so we have Bucema Silver Surfer.
Yes. This is from the first Surfer issue I ever bought off the newsstand, which is number 9. And what I love about this page, I actually think that John Buscema's best inker was himself, which he didn't do very often. But when he inked himself, it almost looked like Hal Foster. It was beautiful. But his next best inker was probably Palmer.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, it's kind of a toss-up because Sinnott was always great on everybody. But this is Dan Adkins, and he did a marvelous job on this issue. And
You're
I
making
just love
friends
this
tonight, Ted.
I'm sorry?
You're making new friends tonight.
How about that? I'm loving it. And what I love about this page is it not only is the Surfer on it, but it also features Mephisto, who I consider his arch nemesis, and the Ghost, who was just a really cool villainous character. When I was a kid reading this story, I loved it. I just absolutely loved it.
So a page you had for a while, or another 5-year page?
This page I've had for at least 30 years, maybe more. I'm trying to even remember where I got it. I don't remember where I got it. I used to have another page from this issue, but I sold it because I already had one. I figured, why have two? I already got one.
Right, exactly. Well, that's good. You've been in the hobby for a long time when you don't, remember where you got it.
I cannot remember.
Ago. And
My apologies.
There was a question from Marcus, but you can answer that one. I'm assuming one of the pieces we get to today, you might actually say is your favorite piece in your collection. Or maybe you don't have one, but when we get to it, you let us know.
It's a tough call, but I'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I think so many people would love to have a Surfer page from the original run. I mean, without question. And you're right, Mephisto in this one. I would put him up there with top 2 villains. With Surfer as well. So come on, it's 4-panel layout. It's beautiful.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with this one. It's so nice. All right, Big John with a different inker. Another great inker, George Klein.
Mm-hmm.
George Klein regrettably only inked Big John on maybe about 7 or 8 issues tops in the Avengers, and they're all spectacular. This is from number 58, which is the Origin of the Vision issue. And I love it because it's just loaded with characters in every panel. And it's like the second appearance of the Vision, and they're trying to figure out how he came to be. And Hank Pym remembers that he had abandoned an old experiment where Ultron was first created. And so they set off to go to his old laboratory to see what they can find. And that's what's going on this page. This I got from Heritage, like the second or third year that they were doing the auctions. There were things that would slip through the cracks in those days. And this was one of them. I'm telling you, even 20 years ago was not like today. Nothing like it. The 4-panel layout. You can thank Jack for that, of course. Mm-hmm. But look at the way he's holding his cape. It's just so cool.
Yeah, no, that first panel is amazing.
It is. It's just brilliant. And
so
oh my God, Palmer or Klein? That is a tough one. I can't choose, my friend. I got to hedge my bets because. And now I was talking about George Klein, but unfortunately, he also inked those wonderful Legion of Superheroes and Superman issues by Kurt Swan back in the early 60s.
Yeah.
And, you know, I really came to know him on these, the Avengers, but regrettably, he died very young. And I think the last issue he inked was either 63 or 64, and then he died. So we didn't get blessed with his work anymore. So I feel, again, really lucky to have a page that has his inks on it. As great as Palmer is, I don't know if you'll agree with this, but Palmer puts a bit of a blanket on the artist he's inking. His inking style is kind of heavy. Like someone like Sinnott, it's more glossy and a little bit of a lighter touch.
Yeah.
Palmer is more massive. It's almost like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's got a lot of heaviness to it.
I was gonna say it is very heavy inks, but to me it doesn't detract. It's just a different style on it.
Oh, it
right?
doesn't detract. No.
No, I mean, because he could ink anybody and it still looked like the penciler's work, but it had that kind of signature weighty feel that Palmer put on his stuff. But yeah, no, Klein didn't do it. It wasn't around long enough to, you know, you're right. He could have left a totally different legacy.
Right.
Had he been in comics for longer.
But he did some of the greatest issues, really memorable issues. I'm really glad that some years ago I got to meet Palmer at an original art show in New Jersey. And he was the guest of honor. And the funny thing is, at the show, there wasn't a lot of competition. There weren't big lines for the artists. So I was able to just go right up to him and start chatting with him. And what I learned was that he was a youngster when he was doing these early Avengers issues, the ones in the number 70s. And he just came out fully formed. It's like he came out of the womb fully formed as an inker, you know.
He didn't need to spend too much time in the bullpen to figure out you know, his style and his approach to getting the work done and getting it done on time.
From the get-go, yeah.
I never got to meet him, but you know, I've seen a few interviews with him, and yeah, he clearly, you know, he worked on a lot of, you know, really important titles. He worked with all the best. And yeah, he had a pretty incredible career.
Yeah, I loved him. I loved his use of duotone and gray tones and various things.
That first panel on that Neal Adams page with the Zipatone on there was just unbelievable. I don't know how they think like that, but you know, again, they're thinking about what it's going to look like when it's printed, and they just have an eye. They know what that's going to.
Well, I wonder how he had the balls to do that. Because it is a bit of a risk when you're dealing with.
Would you ever? You don't want to, you know, put something down over some artwork that Neal Adams drew that you inked, and then you're going to have the nerve to slap a sticker on top of it.
The top penciler in the world. Oh, I know this. I can do better.
Yes, exactly. Well, you know, I mean, but anyways, that's because that's on that page. The first panel was, to me, like coolest one, and it was partially because of the zip and partially because of the expression on you know, on the character's face, and all that makes it for made it so special on that page. But sorry everybody, we started an hour early today, you know.
Oh yeah, that's my fault. I'm an old geezer now. I can't stay awake. I'm sorry.
Blame it on Ted.
So shoot me.
All right. Well, look at this one, man. Holy smokes.
I love this page.
You know, Gene Colan could do no wrong during this period, right? But my goodness.
And trust me, it's twice up. And twice up pages just knock your head off. They're so stunning. Because like the two pages the first two pages, those are like the later size. And they're fabulous, but I got to tell you, the twice up pages are beyond belief. Yeah, we're all old. I love it. Now this one I got, an old friend, an old buddy of mine who I knew had some amazing pieces, told me, you got to come by. I have stuff that no one's ever seen. And if you can pull some dough together, I'll pull some stuff out for you and you can pick and choose. So luckily Lisa was on board by this point, and she gave me a good budget. And I went over, and this was kind of the cornerstone piece that I picked up. And I think the Mandarin is Iron Man's arch nemesis, his coolest villain. And even though this, I have a secret for you. This is Happy wearing the armor, but it's Iron Man. You know, what difference does it make? You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Getting blasted.
Well, that's like, so 2 out of 4. You know, you have the FF, but they're Skrulls. We have Iron Man, but it's not Tony Stark. Okay, so we're 50% of the time we're not getting the characters we think we're getting.
I see a theme here.
No, this is a beautiful page, and like you just said, Twice Up. I mean, I think I only have 3 to Twice Up pages, and they're amazing to see. To just and I've seen plenty, right, at shows, at Berkey's house, all that stuff. But when they're yours, and they're just, it's something special. And
this, it really is.
The size of this is just crazy. I mean,
it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
that they work that big.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. And so I imagine the moment you saw this at your friend's house when he was pulling out stuff that out of the black hole collection that he had, this was the piece that you knew you had to walk away with, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, my jaw went clank on the floor. He knew he had me.
Well, I mean, had he known you for a while, so that he kind of knew what your collecting tastes were?
Or yeah, we've known each other since the 80s. Yeah.
Wow. Well, congrats on that. Not many of us get the call where you can go over and see an old friend who's ready to let go of some pages that, and not send them to an auction house or something. So
I finally got to buy a splash too, a really nice splash.
Yeah.
He was, it's funny because as a kid, again, when I collected from about 69 to 74, and we all know about the Bronze Age. Well, I'm almost crying now. Don't start getting me started. But so I was buying Bronze Age books off the stands, but I liked the Silver Age books better generally. Kirby, Ditko, Steranko, Colan, Bucema, all those guys. And the funny thing is, when I would get old Tales of Suspenses, the Colan stuff to me was secondary at first, because you'd have Kirby Cap, and the Kirby Cap is among my favorite. It's just so action-packed and heroic and monumental, So the Iron Man stuff, I always thought, this is good, but it's secondary, But every passing year, every year that passes, I love Colan's work more and more and more, and I appreciate him more. Very sophisticated way of doing things.
No, I agree. I mean, he was somebody who I didn't appreciate at all when I was reading comics in the 70s, wondering why is this old guy still drawing comics? And my goodness, what a fool I was.
We didn't get it.
I love it. He's one of my favorite illustrators. And, because again, he's so unique, right? I mean, we have unique,
totally unique
today, right, that are out there that kind of that clearly have their own defined style and approach to comics. You look at Colan's work, and it's just so dynamic and different, and that's the same qualities that I think everybody loved about Kirby, right? Everything was in your face, exaggerations. Colan was the same way. Everything was a crazy pose. He broke up panels and borders like nobody else. All those things. And no, I look at his stuff today, and he's very much one of my favorite comic.
There's a lot of inherent motion in his work, which I really enjoy. I think even more than Kirby or some of the others. It's almost, you can just see the cinema reel moving as you're looking at it.
Well, I'm with you there. And, as far as the comics go, I mean, come on, those comics from the 60s and early 70s, they smelled differently than the Bronze Age. The coloring in them was different. There was definitely just something, that was very appealing about, that era of comics over what you were reading in the Bronze Age. So
You reminded me of something.
what's that?
When I was a youngster and I was buying, go and get the new comics off the newsstand, and I'd bring them home, bringing them home, and I would smell them. And it was sort of a unique smell that the Marvels had that was kind of, I'd call it acrid in a way, but it was very distinctive.
Mm-hmm.
The ink and the paper, which is long gone. It's just age has completely eradicated that particular, but it's here in the memory.
Sure.
And I kind of miss it.
Oh man! All right, so Tomb of Dracula. Look at this. Look at the blade.
What a page!
That is one hell of a page. My goodness.
I was so excited. The funny thing is, another friend of mine who I haven't known since the 80s, probably known him for maybe 20 years, but apparently a friend of his passed away. He lived in northern Massachusetts. And so my buddy was helping his mother clear out his stuff and deal with the estate. And he knew that I liked original art. So he called me and he said, "There's a few pieces here. You think you might be interested?" So he sent me some pictures and I fell out of my chair.
16 seconds later, you were on the phone.
I said, "Get over here." But the funny thing is the most valuable piece he had was a page from Thor 169, which was a cool page. And it was worth at least twice what this one is technically. But this is the page that I got all excited about because the layout is so great. And it's such a great image of Blade. This is from number 17. So it's an early Blade appearance. And look at that face of Dracula. Oh, it's just so exquisite. If you want an example of why Palmer, if you want to show someone how Palmer was such a great inker, look at this panel. It's just, wow. It's so gothic.
It is. Yeah, the lighting on it is so well. And I'm sure, Gene penciled that way, but he, having Tom come in and then ink it as he did is just fantastic.
I always considered Gene must have been one of the toughest pencilers to ink because his pencils are just so in motion. They're like soft edged. They're not linear really so much. So I think a lot of inkers struggled with him.
Not Palmer though.
Yeah, that's great. Great.
I have a Doctor Strange page with Palmer inks over Colan, and
nice.
It's gorgeous, right? I mean,
that's something I want is a Doctor Strange page. I'd love to get a good one from the original series. I mean, the second series, which started in 74, long running series, that has a lot of great stuff in it. But that first series, if the right page came up, I might take a dive.
You'd be a player for one of those. I get the second series, but got on it, so I'm happy.
Oh no, it's great stuff. Great stuff.
All right, next up.
Blade. This is one of my favorite pieces for various reasons that I own. I consider this the best page in the book. That headshot is just so graphic, and him, just wandering off into the wilderness, not knowing what's going to come next. And it's the first issue. It's the last page. I actually like it better than the cover because the cover, even though it's the cover and there's a lot going on, the inking on it isn't that great, in my opinion. It's not as good as this. This is Dandy Dan Adkins again. Now, another reason I love this page is because this is one of the 4 pages that my buddy Maz got in trade.
I was just going to ask. It has to be one of the 4.
Yes. And I regrettably, a couple decades ago, Maz died from cancer. And that sucked. But what he did was it's Conan 1. In his will, he stipulated that 10 years from his demise, well, the art was to be stored away. His art, he had great old strip art and some comic art stored away for 10 years, and 10 years hence to be pulled out and sold, and the proceeds divided up between his surviving family members. So come 10 years later, his sister calls me. She said, I had been friends with the whole family for years, since we were in like 3rd grade. So she said, can you help me with this? I have no idea which side is up. She knows nothing about it. So I come over to her place. She lives in this big house, kind of on the other side of the tracks in Worcester, because she's sort of a Catholic worker type. And she and her significant other, the two of them help people. They, like, their whole thing is helping downtrodden people. They're wonderful people. So they even had like homeless people living in their house for a while, till they could maybe get on their feet a little bit and stuff like that. So I go to the house, and there's this back room where things are just piled haphazardly, and there's this cabinet unlocked for 10 years, and there's the art. So there's this incredibly valuable comic art. She had no idea, which was probably a good thing, because she never mentioned it to anybody, probably. And it's funny that it just stayed untouched, unlooked at for 10 years. So I bring it home, figure it out. And at the time, I call her, I say, Joe, I have this figured out. I think its retail value is about 140 grand. And there's a pause. There's no sound. And I'm thinking, uh-oh, did I kill her? I think she just could not believe that it would be worth anything like that. She just had no concept. Mm-hmm. So she was like over the moon. So basically they had me sell it for them. So I was able to buy a few pieces from the collection, and this was the prize. And I sold the other 3 pages for them, and it all just worked out great. They were thrilled to pieces. And the FF page that I was talking about earlier, the one where we each got one, I sold the other one that he had gotten. That was one of them. So I would say this is one of my maybe 3 favorite pages that I have in my collection. You'll see the other 2 as well.
Well, that's great. I mean, and this is the one that he traded the Kirby Journey in the Mystery page for the 4, and you for the 4 Conan 1 pages, and you got one of them. I think that it was meant to be.
Yeah, this is the linchpin page.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, this is one of the other favorites of mine. I have been an absolute fanatic about Ditko Doctor Strange. I think it's his finest work, as great as his Spidey is. The Doctor Strange is so imaginative and surreal, and like the otherworldliness of it that he created was just incomparable. Mm-hmm. I always wanted a Ditko Doctor Strange page ever since that event with Mitch, where I missed.
Never forget.
And of course, they kept staying ahead of me because they were always pretty prized, and they're much scarcer than Spidey pages. Mm-hmm. And so this maybe like 20 years ago, I don't know, I'm guessing 20. Ramita Man had this, and it was way out of my price range. There was no prayer. So I pulled a few things out of my collection that I thought he might have interest in, and offered him trade for it. And he ended up picking, I had a page from Daredevil 1 with DD on it. It was a great page, which I loved, but I had gotten such a good deal on that page in a fluke that I figured I don't have a whole lot into this page. And I want Doctor Strange by Ditko more than I want Daredevil by Everett. Mm-hmm. And so I ended up trading it. Now, technically, I'm sure the Daredevil page is worth more in today's market. But for me, this is the one that really mattered. And another thing I love about this is the junk shop I mentioned earlier. There was one in particular where I would walk about 2 miles to get to this place, and you just never knew what they were going to have. So they'd have a pile of comics, and I would just go through looking for the gems and the stuff I needed, nickel a piece, no matter what it was. One of the first old Marvels that I was able to get was this issue. It's Strange Tales 141, and it's the climactic battle between Strange and Dormammu, using the pincers of doom. And this is just a great pincer battle page. And I don't think I've ever seen another page from this issue offered for sale.
Right.
I've seen earlier issues and great stuff, but I've never seen one like this.
That's
so I
fantastic.
kind of flipped my wig when I got this, I got to tell you.
Right. And you've seen that, like what the early Daredevil pages are going for, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You got what you wanted, that you
That's
missed
it.
out on.
Yeah.
Did you ever get to buy anything from Mitch? I mean, or were you always, coming up?
Did I ever buy? I did. I bought a few things from Mitch, but the funny thing is I never bought anything big from Mitch. I bought, there's a British painter, British comic artist, but he did painted pages, not Bisley, kind of concurrent with Bisley. I cannot think of the guy's name. He was really sensational. And at the time, his stuff was really inexpensive. I think he's since gone up a lot, but I cannot think of his name. I don't think it was Carl Critchlow. No, I don't think that. I can't think of his name, but I remember buying that, and probably some other stuff that was long enough ago that my feeble memory does not retain.
Well, at least you didn't, strike out every time you tried.
No.
But you did mention some Ditko Spidey, and so here's a page.
Yes.
13.
Now this is a lovely page from number 13. And I'm really happy with this, even though it doesn't have Mysterio on it, because there was no way I could ever afford a Ditko Spidey page. So a zillion years ago, back in the 90s, I had an ad in the Comic Buyer's Guide, which was a selling ad, which was mentioned earlier, CBG. That was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And so Conrad Eschenberg, who was a big comic art dealer in New York, calls me and says, "Hey, I need that Showcase 8. You've got a couple other things." He said, you want to trade? And well, I just noticed Mark Fong said a portfolio of blue chip art. The reason it's blue chip is because all the stuff that is less than blue chip has gradually slipped through my fingers over the years. Whenever I'd need to raise some money and I'd like look at my collection and say, what can I stand to sell? Say, all right, I'll take this one, but this one, I'm not touching this one. But so he said, "You want to trade?" I said, "Sure," because I knew he had way better stuff than I did at that point.
Marcus says he talked like a wise. You hear that? Yeah, well, here, Marcus says he talked like a wise guy. Conrad did kind of talk like a wise guy.
Oh, he did, yeah.
He did, yeah. I mean,
ironically, he was a cop.
I built this first website, and so that's I did,
oh,
and
cool.
he was very interesting, but he did talk like a wise guy. You felt like you were dealing with a guy who had some mod ties one way or another. I don't know where in his past, but the thing was, he was kind of one of those guys that he always delivered on whatever he said he was going to do, or when he was going to do it. He seemed to be a very, and I was kind of coming in late in his career, but he seemed to be a very honorable guy at the end of the day, and he had great art. I remember going.
In my experience, he was always respectful.
Yeah,
I was a nobody, and he was a BSD in New York, so. I'm thinking, all right, send me your catalog. So I get his comic catalog, and he has great stuff. But what I didn't think of was his price point was about 30% higher than mine. So I'm thinking if I trade, I'm going to get murdered. So I said, can you send me your art catalog? He said, sure. He sends it up. And I find 4 or 5 things that are of interest, including this. And I'm still thinking it's out of range. So I got him to agree to trade it to me. And he said, well, you'll need to add some more stuff in. And I remember at the time, art and books were considered roughly equal, you know?
Mhm.
So I was getting the cold sweat on my upper lip, you know, and I'm thinking, oh God, how much more, you know? So we worked it out. And at the time it was painful, but holy smokes, it was like possibly the best move I ever made.
Yeah.
And years later, I saw him at a show and he said, you know, you caught me in a moment of insanity. I said, thank goodness.
How you feel today? Yeah, no, I get it. And you know, it's funny when you said that. I do remember Conrad did price his stuff typically rather high, and it was
He was
always
pretty aggressive.
yeah, he was, but he always had the best stuff. And I mean, and we look at things today, and you know, and that's more commonplace, right? And I think that's how the market has, you know, you have guys like Conrad and Heritage and a few other people who are coming in who you can say Berkey, you know, who buys low, sells high. I mean, that's how the market establishes itself and then grows into where we're at today. But if not for all these different, I won't say characters, but you know, people of interest early in the hobby, kind of moving things along, I mean, we wouldn't have the values we have today. But you did luck out. I don't know what you had to give up to get it, but at the end of the day, yeah, this is such a wonderful page. You get him in.
I know I gave up a Showcase 8 in nice shape, Strange Tales 89, and some other books that I don't remember at this point. At the time, it was roughly equal.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, over time, who knew? But I wanted the Spidey page so badly. I was so excited.
And then look at this one.
Yes.
FF28. Yep, you got the X-Men, you got Cyclops on here. Marcus, look, there's Cyclops on one of these panels here. My goodness.
Now, interestingly, Marcus, I got this from Albert Moy. One of the New York, the old Big Apple shows, when it was in the church. Remember the old church show? Some of you guys.
I never got to go, but I've heard so many stories.
Oh God, it was such a cool show. And so Albert's there and he has this page and I'm just walking by and I'm like, holy crap. And I think he had $3,500 on it, which even at the time was a really nice price. And I'm thinking, holy crap, I have to get this. So due to the fact that that was during the Cowardly Cyclops stasis distance.
They're giving me a hard time because I love Cyclops.
So that's hilarious.
When you got optic blast, you don't have to go in there and slug it out with anybody. You're a long range fighter. Just like Hawkeye.
Well, so Albert kindly agreed to let me do payments on it because at the time that was when Lisa wasn't too cool on me, you know, spending large sums on art. So I did it on the sly over some time, you know, and you know, now she's thrilled to pieces that I bought it. But
you were so smart, Ted.
Not always. Now this is another issue that I had another great battle page from this issue, but I already had one that I liked better, so I sold it off years ago.
Wow.
Who needs two, right?
Right, exactly. But no, this is a fantastic page. It's just it's so amazing. I mean,
honestly, the panel that really sold me on this page was the second panel with Mr. Fantastic dodging the blasts.
Yeah,
I love that. I always loved the way Kirby just came up with these inventive ways that he would stretch himself around something. Chick Stone. Chick Stone was a terrific inker on Kirby. Really exciting. A bit heavy-handed, you know, thick brush. But I consider his stuff very exciting.
Well, there's many jealous collectors in the audience today, and I'm one of them. So no, this is gorgeous. And you know, I mean, the beauty we see in our hobby a lot, right? Time payments are a thing, right? At the end of the day, dealers want to get their price, and if time payments, time payments have made many a collector add a piece to their collection that they never would have had the opportunity otherwise, right? And so,
Indeed. Yeah.
yeah. So thank you, Albert Moy, for letting
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
pass through your hands.
Albert's always been nice to me.
Mhm. All right, so we had to show something from DC, right? So here we have
Yes. Well, here's something a
Metamorpho,
little unusual.
Ramona Fraden too, right?
Yes. Now, again, sort of an amazing story behind this one, where even when I was a kid, I really liked Metamorpho because he was so weird. It was just so out of left field, bizarre character, and Ramona's art was sort of offbeat, and so I always remembered that. And so years ago, I was thinking, I really would like to get a good Metamorpho page by Ramona, but no one ever has them for sale. I would never see them. So I'm at a show in New York, I think, and I'm walking back to my booth from somewhere, and I walk by Scott Eater's booth, and I literally walk by it, and then I do a double take, just like a cartoon character, and walk back, and there's this page on his wall. And I'm like,
right? I mean,
Scott
was always big into Kirby, but Fraden, Metamorpho, I mean, that's not something I would expect to see on Scott's wall.
I know, and I knew him as the guy who had the underground and independent art,
right?
And he has a tremendous eye for that stuff. A lot of beautiful, beautiful stuff. But so we got to chatting, and I worked out a deal with him, and it's from #1, so that makes it even better.
No, that's great.
Metamorpho all over it. It's got oh God, I can't think of her name now. His lady love. It doesn't have Simon Stagg, but you can't have everything.
Well, it's always, again, it's you mentioned a few pieces and artists who've eluded you, but then you found one from by Ramona from.
It was uncanny. It was like a gift from above, Twice up.
All right, now so we did DC, and now we're doing something a little more modern.
Who published this? Top Cow, maybe? I forget. But in any event, this is the Goon by Eric Powell, and one of my collector friends, who was a customer for many years, he turned me on to the Goon early on. He said, "This is a great comic. You got to read this. It's funny. It's really beautifully drawn." So I got hooked on it, loved it. And so I'm in San Diego many moons ago, and I'm walking around, just looking around, see who's there. And I stumble on a booth with Eric Powell there. And he's got literally portfolios filled with pages. And again, at the time, I'm thinking I should just buy all the portfolios, but I couldn't afford it.
Right.
And again, I didn't really know how to make it happen. So I ended up buying 3 pages, and this is the only one I kept. But what I love about this one is most of his stuff is pen and ink, black and white pen and ink. This technique he developed, which is beautiful, he uses graphite, and then he did outlines on certain parts of it, and it's very striking. This image right here was used on, I believe, the back cover of one of the trades. So that was another plus. Yeah, nice tonal, great stuff, huh? And it's a great read for any of you guys who are not familiar with it. Pick up a trade and see if you like it. It's really funny. It's got elements of horror, of humor, and almost like 1930s Depression era atmosphere. It's a weird mixture, but it's great.
Yeah, I've never owned anything by Powell, but his style is just so beautiful and striking. Beautiful. And like you said, his tonal quality in his work, and then it's amazing. And you're right, it's very noirish. It has that kind of feel. I mean, no. So Bill,
pick up one of the trades. See if you like it.
I've read a few issues, but I can't say that I know the character really well. But at the end of the day, you can always appreciate good art, right?
Oh yeah,
That's the
definitely.
thing. Stingray says he's also an excellent painter. And
Yes,
Robert Berman commented on the Metamorpho page saying that the character was Sapphire Stag.
that's it. Sapphire Stag. I couldn't remember.
All right, now look at this one. Kirby Cap issue 100. If Alberto's here, his jaw just hit the table. He's our number one Cap collector out there, but holy moly.
This is
This
from
is
Cap 100.
this is one hell of a page. God.
This, again, a friend of mine offered this to me some years ago. I made a call to Lisa. I said, look, he's offering it to us. It's a good price. It needs to be bought. And so I kind of sold her on it. And she let me buy it, which was great. Look at the force. I mean, nobody could do sheer force like Kirby. I mean, that's gotta hurt.
Yeah. This unbelievable. You see, there you go. Alberto's screaming claim. Oh gosh. I mean, this is just a remarkable page. The first panel with them fighting. I don't care their backs are to us. It doesn't matter. It's great that they are, because we get to see these goons getting the crap beat out of them, and they're all in pain. And that's what we want to see anyway. As a kid reading a comic book, I want to see the bad guys getting theirs, and they are getting it like
getting the tar whooped out of them.
They better have a good dental plan after this thing is all over. Holy smokes. But my gosh, what an incredible page this is, Ted.
Yeah, it's so exciting.
Gosh. Wow.
Yeah, again, I just consider myself lucky to have, been offered this page. Dynamics, that's a good way to put it. But it has the Panther, which is great. And it's from number 100, the milestone issue.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a really, really special page.
Wow. Well, Stranko has, you've not been able to nail one of those down, but come on, a Kirby Cap 100 page, this caliber.
Don't go with Kirby.
I'll be happy with this one, boy. But no, I love this piece. It really is amazing.
I thought you might enjoy it.
Yeah.
Now this is my third favorite, personal favorite, and I just love this issue. I love the Super Skrull. This is FF18, first Super Skrull, and I love the action that's occurring on this page. Where in the previous page, Reed has created a giant hammer with his stretchability, and he's about to whale the Super Skrull, but the Super Skrull grabs his piece of stone, and poor Reed is hurting. So Ben comes at him, and then if you scroll down a bit, I love that, where he turns himself into a battering ram and knocks Ben across the city. It's just such an amazing page. And again, I don't think I've ever seen another page. The thing's starting to develop his rockier look, a little less mushy, I guess you could say, more rocky.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever seen a page from this issue offered. I got this back in the 90s from a guy named Monty Ayash, who's a guy from Rhode Island who owned a store, but was also a collector. And I had some Batmans and Detectives Golden Age that he really wanted. And he offered me this in trade. And again, it was sweat on the lip time, because it's like Golden Age Batmans and Detectives. And I'm like, oh my God, those are my best books, But I had to have this, and I'm so glad I did. I got it.
And over the years, you've clearly held on to the right pages. You mentioned that you've pick up a couple yourself here there, but
what I'm glad I did too is I got Ayers. Like this is Ayers. I've got Chick Stone. I've got a couple of Senate. When it comes to FF, I've got most of the inkers, which is great. Speaking of Senate,
dude,
This is a twice up page, and this page is unbelievable. This is one of the ones I got in the Howard Lowry auction.
Wait, this isn't the pair, right? Or
yeah, this is the one that I
pair
got.
that you got with Maz. Okay.
Yeah, the other one had the thing on it, and he was fighting the Sandman. It's a great page. But I like this one better because, I mean, look at Blastaar, and then look at that. That's crazy. You know.
Yeah, what a crazy villain to begin with. I mean, just from their looks, but Blastaar, crazy power. But look at that! Holy smokes!
Kirby Crackle at its finest.
It is. It's so true, man.
So exciting. And Sinnott made everything kind of glow. It like pops off the page. It just jumps. I don't quite know how he did it, but
yeah.
It's funny because when you look at a page like this up close, you can see that it's really not perfect. Like his ink strokes, they look perfect, like flawless, like he just went bloop, but they're not perfect. But somehow he made it look perfect. I think that was just.
This was twice up too?
This is twice up, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this page will blow your mind in person. Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah,
well,
so this was,
once they reduce it, I mean, even if there are maybe, like you say, some slight imperfections here or there, I mean, once it gets down, to the comic size, you can get away with a little bit. But I'm looking at it, I'm not seeing any flaws. I'm just seeing a lot to love.
What's amazing about it. It's funny. I met Joe many years ago at a special dinner in New York, and Kirby Sinnott absolutely made you a true believer. I can't think of any other team that made me more want to be an artist, much less a comic collector. But I met Joe years ago, and so I went up to him and I said, Joe, I just wanted to say hello to you. I think you're just a great inker. I said, I think you're the best commercial inker ever. Because by that I meant someone like Wrightson and Frazetta are probably the top inkers, but they took their time. They didn't do a large body of work. He was a commercial inker, and he was so good. So I said, you're the best commercial inker that I think ever. And I said, I'm sure you hear that all the time, but you're probably bored hearing that. He goes, oh no, you can tell me that as many times as you want, he said, which was wonderful,
Yeah, he didn't have the same ego that Neal had, but
no, not at all.
Same impact,
and I asked him, I said,
same legacy in comics, certainly.
Those perfect force lines that you did, how the heck did you do those? He said, one at a time. Dipped the brush, ruler, tipped it up, bloop. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Just pure skill.
There you go. The Lone Ranger wants to know, what do you think of Everett inks over Kirby?
It's funny you asked that question, because the first time I saw Everett inks over Kirby was on the Thors in the 170s. He did a few issues. And this may be sacrilegious, but I loved and preferred Coletta on Kirby on Thor. I didn't like him on FF. He flattened it out too much. But on Thor, I thought he imbued it with sort of a rugged grandeur, with the way he did the lines, the little
right, the way he'd handled it, just like the shading on the muscles. I mean, there was something about, I like Coletta inks on Thor as well.
Yeah, I loved it. And so when Everett came in, I was buying as a kid, new, and I didn't like it. I was like, wait a minute, this is different. I think it was just different. And I just like, there's something about this I'm not crazy about. So then, of course, as an adult, I came back to the comics, and I'm looking at these pages. I'm thinking, holy smoke. And looking at some of the originals, they're gorgeous. Oh my God, they pop. They're really amazing. So needless to say, I think it looks great, but I didn't at first.
Well, I think this next page, you mentioned it earlier, the Thor 126 page.
This is not the one that I bought from that.
Oh, it's not?
No.
Same issue,
the
though.
other one wasn't as great as this one.
Okay.
They were on it, but they were small. And they were crashing into a subway. But this one, I got from a pal. Again, I can't remember when, but it's twice up, so it's very striking. And I just love the way he's kicking the whole earth mover boom off of Thor. And the fact that it has both of them in every panel, I just really dig that. And poor Thor had his power halved by an angry Odin, so he lost. He was humiliated.
Yeah.
It was like me in my junior high fights.
Well, you tried.
I tried.
Yeah, I mean, this is a gorgeous page.
Yeah, the layout's great. Yeah.
Well, wow.
Ooh.
Look at
this. Is the most recent of all the acquisitions here of these that I'm showing you. This one, again, just a lucky break. An old pal, different old pal, was at a paper show. He said this guy had a couple pages, couple covers, and he just had a hunch about him, and he bought him from the guy. And he offered him to me. And needless to say, I jumped. I had been really, really badly wanting a 1950s either science fiction or horror page, because those are really underrated, I think, a lot of the art.
This is Russ Heath?
Russ Heath, pencil and inks. So I couldn't believe that he had a cover. It's missing a few of the subheaders, but it has the main header, which is great. And the art is in great shape otherwise. And it's Mystic number 20. It's incredible. Again, I wouldn't have, if you asked me if this existed, I would have said probably not, and there it is. So it was very exciting.
So it's good to have a network of friends as well that can pick up the phone and say, hey, I see something at this paper show that it might be right up your alley.
It was just amazing. Like, nice. Oh, man.
No, this is gorgeous. I love, it's so, the inking is so coarse, but it's of the era. It's perfect for a horror book. And
it's got a monster and everything, which is great.
Yeah. I mean, you think of Heath, you think of war stories and things, but this is fantastic.
I mean, his war books are great, but his horror stuff was great too.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Barry the Barbarian again.
And what issue is this from? Oh, this is 8?
Number 8. Yeah. Okay. This is inked by Tom Sutton. And I think Tom Sutton did a first-rate job on this. It's brilliant. This was from Howard Lowry. And Barry was such a perfectionist that each panel is cut and pasted together. And what probably happened is he was unsatisfied with the layout or what he was coming up with, and he just reconfigured the whole thing. The reason he left Conan was because he wasn't making any money, because he was taking too long on the pages. And you can see why. This has a great backstory, because Howard Lowry, the auction, my buddy Maz mentioned to me, this is back in the early 90s, I think. He mentioned to me that Lowry had this page, and we both loved Conan, Smith's Conan. And I said, oh, cool, So come the day of the auction, I call, and I'm bidding. And, 300, 400, 500. And I'm bidding against somebody who's just determined to get this page. And I'm determined to get this page. So we're bidding against it. Finally, it gets up, I think it got up to about $1,100. And I win it. I'm like, yes. So the next day, I call up Maz, and I said, Maz, I won the page. I said, there was this guy bidding against me. He said, that was me. We were so stupid. We didn't coordinate.
Oh,
we were literally bidding
man
against each other. I ended up
If he wouldn't have told you about it, he could have got it for like $500 or something.
Oh my goodness. Now, one other cool thing about this page is that this panel right here, up here, you can't see it because it's too small, but it says, "I must be mad sitting here all night in the middle of the night drawing all these coins." And it's just such a great, funny little gag that, Barry put in there. And years and years ago, several years ago, I mentioned it to somebody, and they must have known Bob Overstreet or been an advisor, because the next year it was mentioned in the guide, and it's still mentioned in the price guide, which is great.
Wow.
Yeah, I love this page.
So you and Maz coordinated after that, right? You're going for this one this time around. I'll step out, back on the next one for you. Yeah.
Learn a hard lesson,
Oh boy. Well, this probably happened to many, many friends in the hobby. But
Yeah,
no, this is beautiful, and I've seen a lot of pages from Barry's run where he's pieced stuff together, and I never quite understood it. I mean, I figured it just had to do with just a lot of maybe just changes, or it was part of his process. But clearly, he with what you're saying, he was just so particular and wanting to get things perfect, and that was his method at this point in time in his career.
Yep, very, very fastidious.
Well, we only have 2 more pieces to look at, I think, and I showed this one off accidentally when we got started. So it's the Swamp Thing page that
Bernie.
Man,
look at the detailing and the inking on this page. It's just absolutely spectacular. And this is the one that Maz had bought from Mitch, and then a couple of years later he sold it to me, and I managed to get him to hold on to it till I could scrape the dough together. In that last panel, it was used. There was, I think in the 1980s, maybe, there was a famous comic book documentary made called Comic Book Confidential. And it featured a number of underground cartoonists and more mainline cartoonists, and interesting. And the chapter on Bernie, this was used as the header. That image, yeah. 5 in general was one of the best issues, I think, in terms of the art and having so many great pages. But this really is one of the best. And I had Bernie sign it. I met him a few times at shows. He was always a sweetheart of a guy, very modest, considering what a major talent, and got him to sign it.
Did he like seeing the page after all those years?
He did. He enjoyed it. Yes. Yeah. Most of the artists do. They might remember something about it. Like I remember I had Williamson sign a page I had years ago in the mid-90s. And he said, "Oh, geez, I didn't do a very good job on this one, did I?" Because it really wasn't one of his better pages. It was an EC page, but it wasn't that well done. He probably rushed it.
Right.
And I just think that's so funny because he signed it for me,
Even though he wasn't proud of it.
Exactly. Because I was so excited about it anyway.
Exactly. Well, it didn't make you think any less of the page, but
no. Or of him. He was actually a super congenial guy, really nice guy.
There you go. Michael says he has a
No
page.
way. That's great, Mike. Way to go, buddy. I wonder if you have one of the pages that Maz had bought that I sold off for him.
He may. And then what is this? Cowbell TV says
see, he's the one who remembers it. Yeah.
In college, yeah. And Rich Danny said it was the Ron Mann documentary.
Right, Ron Mann.
Yep, time capsule.
Yes.
But no, this is a beautiful.
Those were the days when comics weren't as mainstream either. So for someone to do a documentary was kind of a big deal.
All right. Well, we have one other page, and that is from Wally Wood.
Wally. Space Wally.
Wow.
So I never found a satisfactory EC space page from Wally. Like most people won't part with them, you know. And on the rare occasions they did, it was before I had enough dough to pick one up. I, amazingly enough, picked this up at Heritage a million years ago when they first started. And even though it doesn't have the Spirit on it, it's like Wally. It's part of the Outer Space Spirit series, and it's Wally Wood at its best. And you've got duotone, you got space, you got all kinds of great stuff. Look at that panel with the pilot. It's just so classic Wood.
Yeah, I mean, how does he pack so much amazing detail on that little panel with the pilots? I mean, I love the last panel too with the guy in the phone booth. I mean,
yeah. I mean, Wally's always been one of my favorites. He just so great.
Yeah, and you know, good Wally Wood pages just don't come up anymore. I mean, anybody who wants one, I would never let it go. I mean, you just don't see them.
So tough.
What's a phone booth, says Marcus. Yeah, what's a phone book, I guess, these days, right? But
yeah, that's right. What's a phone book? Oh, man.
Yeah, I love this page too, man. You just don't see enough, you know, Wally Wood's artwork out there. I mean, honestly, there's probably a criminal amount of, you know, pages that are on CAF. There's just not enough out there, and you know, a lot of the collectors that have gotten these over the years, you know, they don't let them go. They're not people who maybe share a lot of their pieces on CAF, so you just don't get to see this stuff too often. So no, this is a beautiful page, Ted.
Yeah, and he was so bold with his blacks. Just fearless with that stuff. His sense of his graphic sensibility was really something. Now, I finally did wind up finding a Woody EC science fiction page, but it's an interior page, like of a spacecraft. It doesn't have any space. So it's a great page, but
everybody wants the interior spacecraft stuff from Wally Wood. I mean,
is that right?
That you know, I would take this page, but I mean, I want, you know,
wow. Well, you know, I should next time. Next time I'll show you that one. I just didn't think it would be as interesting as this one.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
what do I know?
There's a lot of stuff. Yeah, but that if I had my pick of pages, I'd take anything that had any kind of machinery, especially if it's kind of, you know, rounded, like you're inside of a spaceship.
Yeah, well,
I mean, that's exactly what I want from Wally Wood. I don't even care, you know, it doesn't matter what it's from. I'd be happy with that.
Yeah. So so I like I said, Thunder Agent. Yes.
Those are pretty underappreciated pages too.
I used to have a few of those. I never kept them for that long. Thunder Agents made a huge impression on me. Yeah. Which page did you say you need to get rid of?
Inquiring minds want to know.
All in good time, my good sir.
And Michael said you left a comment, I think, on his on the Swamp Thing page over on CAF. So maybe you've seen it before.
Oh, I have seen it. Yeah. I can't remember which one it is, though. I'll have to go back. I got to go to your gallery later. Now you got me curious.
Well, I mean, Ted, this is fun, man. I knew you were going to have good stories. I just, you know, but it's always fun hearing about the camaraderie in the early days. And you think about, you know, to me, I've never gone in with a friend, you know, or another collector on a page, or, you know, in that kind of way. I mean, you did some trades early on. I mean, it's always just cool to hear that these kinds of things were going on early in the hobby when, like you said, when things were really didn't have the same level of appreciation. Yet, you know, that as collectors, you know, you were finding ways to get deals done when things didn't seem, you know, probable. And then even, you know, the trade you did for which was the page. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's just
in the Spidey page too. That was a trade. Yeah.
Yeah, Conrad. I haven't thought about Conrad in at least 4 or 5 years. You know, he passed away around 4 or 5 years, but
yeah.
You know, yeah, he was just, you know, but that's so yeah, it's reminiscing for me, but a lot of the people here aren't familiar with a lot of these names too. But no, this is great. Really, really great stuff, Ted. I'm glad that your wife was accommodating.
She came around.
Came around. Oh man. But yeah, no, but that's a back to the thing is it's important. We talk about this a lot, or I talk about it a lot. That there's always a creative streak in a lot of art collectors out there in the hobby. And your wife recognized that you went to art school. She was a photographer. I mean, at the end of the day, an appreciation for the arts is kind of a good primer to get started. And I think most people have an appreciation for the arts, but those people who are really in it, creatives as well, so much easier. They kind of gravitate to it. Okay, but what did Maz do before we call it a night? What did
Oh,
your friend
Maz, the funny thing is Maz worked just various odd jobs. He was
Yeah.
what you'd call an underachiever. He was brilliant. He had the heart of a poet. He was very literate. He graduated from Holy Cross College with a degree in literature,
Yeah.
and but lacked, I guess you could say, lacked self-confidence to some extent. And he would just do odd jobs that would give him time, like middle of the night type jobs, where he would have time to read, and maybe write. He had creative impulses. He wanted to create his own graphic novels and things like that. And we used to debate endlessly about Eisner versus Kirby and graphic novels, what they could be. Because again, he had a better vision than I did of what comics could become, and he foresaw that more than I did. But then he ended up working as a copy editor at the Worcester Telegram newspaper. So that was a good, solid job that he had. So that's why he never had a lot of extra cash hanging around here. Me, I was too stubborn to work a real job. So I was self-employed. So that's why I didn't have any cash. Hey, thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
Like Michael says, great memories. And I'm glad you shared them with us tonight, Ted. This was fun. And next time I see, I'll probably see you at Heroes, I guess, next. So we got a ways to go. But if you ever make it down to OAX, I think you would enjoy it. Well, I'm not making it to Baltimore this year, unfortunately.
What?
Sorry.
He's got like the best guest list in.
I know this year is pretty impressive. I have to get, they have that IX art show in Reading is the week after Baltimore.
Oh, I forgot about that.
I got to do that one. I mean, it's a big illustration show. I love.
I wish I had more time. I love pulp art. I love science fiction art as well, but I'd love to go to PulpCon. I just have never had time. It's just one of those things. Maybe eventually.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you got me all these scans or photographs before the show. I was worried we weren't going to be able to see.
I wasn't quite sure what you needed.
Yeah, I tried, but no, you did great. I appreciate that, and again, everybody in the chat, I hope you enjoyed the show tonight because this was a lot of fun. We don't get a chance to talk to collectors who've been in the hobby for, I guess almost 40 years, Ted. Maybe even more. Yeah. Yeah, that doesn't happen too often, but yeah, no, I'm glad we were able to do this today. I'm glad we were able to get it done early for you. And
thank you
again. Thank you. For being on CAF for a long time too. I'll say that.
I love it. It's such a wonderful resource, and it was a brilliant idea to do it. And I just want to say thanks for having me on, and everybody who tuned in. Thanks for tuning in, and hope you enjoyed some of the tales, the tall tales.
We did, and let Lisa know we appreciate everything.
I will. Definitely.
All right, everybody. Well, listen, thank you for hanging out with us tonight. We appreciate it, and you guys have a wonderful night, and we'll see you again soon.